Howdy there! I'm Junko Jack, and today we'll be learning about the beautifully wonderful weird life of the Columbian Black-Tail Deer. With the taxonomic Latin name Odocoileus homoeneus columbianus, the Columbian blacktail is one of two subspecies of the mule deer, the other being the Sitka black-tail deer. For the purpose of this video, I will only be referring to the Columbian blacktail. Black-tailed deer live in the coastal regions of the Pacific Northwest, between the ocean and the Cascade Mountains. They are adapted to thrive at the edges of forests and grassland. They usually can be found grazing in fields or clearings in summer, and they use stands of trees for shade. In the winter, black-tailed deer will likely dwell in forests to avoid the harsh elements. They tend to feed in open areas at night and are considered crepuscular, which means that, much like the town of Forks, they are primarily active during twilight. Black-tailed deer can weigh 100 to 200 pounds, and their name comes from their black tail, which they flag when fleeing. Male deer older than 1 year of age are called bucks, and they grow antlers which fall off but come back bigger every year. Female blacktails older than 1 year of age are called does. Both male and female blacktails have a gray-brown coat that becomes reddish-brown in the summertime. They breed in the fall during their rut, and females give birth in the spring around May and June. Any deer younger than 1 year of age is called a fawn and has a reddish-brown coat with white spots to blend in with their environment. Fawns survive danger not by running with their mother, but by hiding in one place for days on end, only to be moved to a new hiding place. This goes on for the first month of their lives until they can keep up with their mom. Black-tailed deer have adapted to survive and thrive in urban and disturbed environments due to the lack of predators such as bears, coyotes, and cougars. Since they are browsers, small trees, shrubs, and unprotected gardens are prime food sources. Blacktails are prolific and at very little danger of extinction. They are actually somewhat of a threat to some species of flora which they overconsume. Black-tailed deer have been hunted likely as long as people have shared their area, and they were more often trapped than hunted with projectiles. The Lummi people made nets from the fibers of the spinal cords of deer. The nets were set in the runways of the deer at the head of a spit on Orcas Island. The deer were then scared off the spit and into the nets, where they would sometimes break their necks upon impact. Hunters waiting there would kill any that did not die immediately. Other methods of trapping were deep pits with tall spikes at the bottom, and nooses hanging along steep trails that the deer would walk into. With what we know about stress hormones tainting the tissue of meat animals these days, it makes you wonder whether modern methods of hunting for food are slightly more humane. Legal deer hunting these days uses either a bow and arrow, a modern firearm, or a muzzle-loading firearm. The hunting season for black-tailed deer is in the late summer and through fall. Traditionally, the deer hides were soaked in rainwater to loosen the fur, which would later be scraped off with a sharp stone. When the hide was clean, it would be rubbed with the deer's brains, which contained oils to make the hide soft. The hide was then tanned by draping it over a tripod over a fire made with rotten wood. The hooves of deer were seen as valuable and were used to adorn dancers' costumes and for exchange. Almost all the organs of a deer are edible, and what was not was used as material. Venison is used and eaten in most ways you can with red meats, and it is rich in vitamins and minerals. It has a high protein to fat ratio and has especially low levels of saturated fat, making it a great source of energy for an active life. It is also lower in sodium and calories than other red meats, and it contains no carbohydrates. All this talk of venison is making me hungry. Let's ramble over to the galley to see what we'll be wrangling today. Loves a game, ain't it? First off, I diced a red onion and started it over medium heat. Cast iron is always better. Nothing like the smell of an onion being born. Then I soaked a bunch of cranberries in boiling water to soften for a few minutes before draining. I measured out caraway seeds, mustard seeds, cinnamon stick, allspice, and salt. Also brown sugar. Then I peeled an orange and juiced it. Along with some cider vinegar, I added these to the onions and let it all simmer down. Cooking is an art, not a science. Allergies were hitting like a brick today. So I decided to treat myself to a cappuccino while waiting. I ground the beans, packed them in, and screwed the lid on real tight. When the coffee was poppin', I poured it into my favorite mug to rest while I blasted some milk with vapor water. Some cinnamon and honey would serve as the perfect bath bomb for a cookie. Yumbo in the tumbo. I set the oven to 375 and diced into a second onion. I put it on low heat until brown and made room for the meat. Losing grip, yeah. Some nice chopping and some salt and pepper would do. Cooking is a science, not an art. Then back in with the onions for a final fry. I layered 5 sheets of phyllo pastry and brushed butter in between each one. This was wildly more frustrating than I expected. Then I laid down the meat mix and a layer of chutney on top. I folded in all the sides so no treasure could possibly escape. Then I rolled it up all gentle like a burrito. I tucked it nicely onto a baking sheet. Then I did all that again while you weren't looking, and then put them both in the oven for company. I cut it in half like this for cinematic effect, and ate it all.